So now that we have an understanding of what variables are, let's move on to the second type in PHP, which are strings. Now we've already been using strings without even knowing it. Hello world is a string. Let's create a new file where we can learn to work with these. I'm going to do that by simply doing a save as on my variables file and put it in my PHP sandbox. And I'm just going to call it strings. Now you could do the same thing by using the basic.html file we created. I'm just going to change the title to strings. And I'm going to go ahead and take everything that's inside these PHP tags out so that I'm ready to work. I've got PHP tags to work with, and I'm ready to start working with strings. Now, as we saw earlier, we had a simple string, which was just hello world. And that's a nice, simple version of a string, and we echoed it to the browser. We saw that we can also include HTML in that as well and put BR tags in. So strings can contain HTML. Strings can also be denoted by single quotes. So we can have hello world. And we've also already seen that strings can be assigned to variables, and we can have my variable equals hello world. If we want to echo that back, we can actually call the variable name instead of calling the string, and it will refer to the string that we've created. We can also work with that in other ways if we wanted to say echo my variable and concatenate it with something like again. We have a feel already for what that will do if we bring it up in our browser. It will echo the variable, the value, hello world, and concatenate it with again. Those are concepts we've already explored. But now, let's take a look at something new. And I'm going to go ahead and just start a new PHP block here, just so we can have some delineation between the two. And I'm going to take that my variable that we just created up above, and I'm going to echo it directly into a string. I'm going to do that by using double quotes and then the $, my variable, and then space again. Now take a look at that. I've actually got the variable inside the double quotes. And if we go ahead and bring that over into our browser and load that page up, we've now changed it to a new page, which is strings. You'll see that we got hello world again with the period as the last one. Now, we didn't have some line breaks in there we're missing. We know how to fix that. We could just as easily have echo with another line break in there. And I'll go ahead and put it on a new line. We know that doesn't matter, but we want to have readable code, so I'm going to go ahead and drop it down to a new line. So what's happening here is it's replacing the variable in place inside the string. Now, this will work perfectly fine for you, but the better way to do this is to actually put it inside curly braces, like this. Now, I've done that just by selecting the entire variable name and then holding Shift and the curly brace, and TextMate went ahead and helpfully put both the beginning and ending braces on there. You may have a similar feature in your text editor. It makes it really nice to put both the beginning and ending parentheses or brackets around something. You'll see me doing that frequently throughout the title. But the reason why we want to have the curly braces there is the curly braces will not be output, but they just help make it super clear that that's what we're talking about replacing, that that's where the variable exists. It'll be much more useful when we start doing variable substitution and we don't have a space that follows the variable. What if, for example, we had hello again? You'll see that it went ahead, if I take the space out of both of those, with the curly braces, TextMate was able to color it so that you can very clearly see that again is something new. Variable is distinct, that's where the variable should go. But up here it got confused and thinks now we're talking about a variable called my_variable again. And that's not what we meant. So the curly braces are a good habit to always be in. Now this technique works with double quotes. It does not work with single quotes. And that's one of the reasons why I said earlier that it was actually better to be using the double quotes. And I'll go ahead and put some BR tags in here just to clean this up. And let's go ahead and change this from double quotes to single quotes. And I'm just going to put a single one at the end of beginning and end of each. There we go. TextMate helpfully tried to put the ending ones in there for me. So now I have single quotes around it. And if I save it and I go back over to my browser and hit return, you'll see that this time it actually did return my variable because it didn't realize it was a variable. It didn't try and do any in-place substitution. It returned the actual text. So it's only going to be double quotes that are going to give you that variable substitution. So I would recommend that you stick with the double quotes, that you use variable substitution inline. You certainly could still do it this way. You could go ahead and break it out if it's more readable to you to have the variable and concatenate it with another bit of text, or you can put it directly into the phrase. So now we know what strings are, we know how to declare them with single quotes and double quotes, we know how to use variables, and we know how to use those variables with our strings, either by assigning strings to variables, by concatenating them together, or by doing in-place substitution. So now we have a good idea of how we can start to work with strings. Let's explore strings a little further by looking at some string functions.